What if all of Antarctica's ice suddenly melted? Beneath Antarctica's icy mantle lies a colossal enigma, frozen in time. Today, on Geo-Global Insights, we embark on a bold thought experiment. We'll melt this white vastness to unveil how it would transform our planet. As the ice yields and the oceans advance, this is what if, and here's what would happen. Welcome to Antarctica. Welcome to the continent that crowns the South Pole, a landmass 40% larger than Europe smothered in ice. Home to seals, whales, penguins, and intrepid scientists conducting crucial research. And on this continent rests an ice block the size of Florida. Meet the 120-kilometer, 80-mile-wide Thwaites Glacier. Its more sinister nickname, the Doomsday Glacier. Its collapse would mean a catastrophic rise in sea levels globally. Currently, this Doomsday Glacier is melting at an alarming rate. It sheds 50 billion tons of ice into the ocean annually, accounting for 4% of the 9 inches of sea level rise already observed. Some researchers predict its total demise in decades, not centuries. But for our analysis, we don't have decades, let alone centuries. Let's visualize what happens if it melts. Much faster, in seconds. In mere seconds, Thwaites liquefies and flows into the surrounding Southern Ocean, and from there into the Indian, Atlantic, and Pacific Oceans. Sea levels rise globally by 60 centimeters, 2 feet. The streets of San Francisco begin to flood. Miami and New Orleans also face the sudden inundation. But what's the trigger? Why did this glacier fragment and break away from the rest? Something is happening in its depths. Beneath Thwaites runs a massive, fast-flowing subglacial river fed by the glacier's own meltwater. This occurs thanks to geothermal energy, heat emanating from the Earth's molten interior. The process starts slowly but culminates in the fracturing of enormous ice blocks, triggering a chain reaction that accelerates carving and melting. And there's more than just one river. A universe of mysteries lies beneath the Antarctic ice, Antarctica's vital importance. Before we delve into that fascinating underworld, I want to highlight Antarctica's crucial importance. It's an ice shield covering 14 million kilometers, 5.4 million mi2, with an average thickness exceeding 2 kilometers, 1.2 miles. For perspective, that's nearly 1.5 times the area of the United States. A staggering volume of ice, 25 million kilo-3, 6 million mi3. It represents 90% of all the planet's ice. And trapped within that ice is 60% of Earth's fresh water. Unlike the Arctic, where ice floats, beneath Antarctica lies solid ground. A forgotten fact, as 98% of this land is covered by ice. And that's not all. 5 million SQ-kilometer, 580,000 SQ miles of ocean also hide beneath this icy cloak. When all this ice melts in minutes, as in our scenario, sea levels will rise an astounding 70 meters, 230 feet. We'll see the impact of this epic collapse on Earth shortly. What's hidden beneath the ice? But first, let's address what awaits us beneath all that frozen mass, as it could be equally alarming. If all that ice melted, ancient microbes and viruses, trapped for thousands or even millions of years, could be released, potentially unleashing unknown diseases upon the world. Modern immune systems have never encountered these ancient pathogens, meaning we might have little or no natural defense. Without prior evolutionary exposure, infections could spread uncontrollably, requiring cutting-edge medical treatments just to stand a chance. Some infections might even demand higher-dose antibiotics or controlled-release drugs to combat prolonged illnesses. Luckily, we're already making progress on technologies that can help tackle these challenges. One biotechnology company called Geltec is revolutionizing medicine with its gel-based drug and nutrient delivery system. Their patented technology allows for the higher doses and the controlled release timing necessary to fight these tough infections. But it's not just for extreme medical cases. It's solving a problem for nearly 1 billion people worldwide who struggle to swallow pills. Instead of choking down a tablet, imagine taking a medication in a smooth and easy-to-use gel. Game-changing, right? Well, it doesn't stop there. Geltech's system is suitable for human and animal health, with applications in pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, pet care, and sports performance. Right now, Geltech is focused on the nutraceutical market with over 70 products, and it's working towards FDA approval for its drug delivery platform. Publicly traded on the Nasdaq under GLS, it collaborates with brands to integrate its gel technology into new and existing products. This could be the next big leap in drug and nutrient delivery, poised to disrupt a market worth nearly $500 billion. If you want to learn more about Geltech's huge growth potential, click the link in the description. But as you'll see later in our video, it'll take more than just their cutting-edge technology to fight what's hidden beneath the ice. Bizarre creatures under the ice. Let's take a look at the bizarre creatures waiting for us inside this frozen landscape. As you explore this uncharted territory, you'll get a glimpse of the ocean floor. And just above, you'll see the underside of the ice. Here you'll find a type of marine life called anemones. These tiny creatures are burrowed into the underside of the ice. You'll also find some other small fish and crustaceans. The anemones you find will be very different from what you'd normally see in the ocean. They're a new species with an unusual trait. Sea anemones usually stay rooted to a single spot, like a plant. But these Antarctic anemones wriggle about in the water. Scientists are still figuring out where they're trying to go. Okay, almost nothing grows in that cold darkness, right? So what are these creatures eating and how are they surviving? Well, probably little bits of plankton and debris ferried in by ocean currents. But they're also eating something super weird and kind of gross. It's the ocean equivalent of rotting food in the back of your fridge. These creatures are eating millions of years old rotting skeletons, bodies, and ancient bacteria that were around when Earth was much warmer. Ooh, watch out. A few more massive glaciers are about to break off. Rising sea levels begin. As the neighboring glaciers to Thwaites separate and melt, more water pours into the oceans. Worldwide, sea levels rise another 2.5 meters, 8 feet. Cities on the east coast of the United States are covered in water. Boston, New York, Miami. Millions of people are affected. Even as cities are getting submerged, something bizarre would be happening right off the coast of Antarctica. Close by, the sea level would actually be falling as all this ice was melting, while the sea level further away would be rising. Now, why would this strange event be happening? Well, remember, the Antarctic ice sheet is enormous. It weighs a mind-boggling 24 quadrillion tons, so it exerts its own gravitational pull on the surrounding waters, which raises the sea level nearby. But when the ice melts, the power of that gravity is gone, so sea levels nearby fall just as they're getting higher elsewhere. The gravitational effect. Over in East Antarctica, the Denmark and Totten glaciers have melted. This adds another 15 meters, 5 feet of water to our oceans. Now, at a 4-meter, 15 ft rise, the United States is losing national monuments. The Jefferson Memorial is underwater. Fenway Park is submerged. Major coastal cities around the world are also flooded. Shanghai, Lagos, Mumbai, Jakarta. Ports are flooded and destroyed. All that salty water is flowing into farmland, destroying our crops. Even worse, underground aquifers that give us drinking water are now contaminated with salt water spilling over from the ocean. Contamination and ancient bacteria. What's scarier is that the contamination runs deeper than just salt. The Antarctic ice carries bacteria with traits that are dangerous to human beings. Some of these bacteria cause infections, and they're linked to diseases like cystic fibrosis. But it gets worse. They have an even more deadly superpower. They're resistant to the antibiotics we use to treat diseases today. If they exchange parts of their genes with the bacteria of our world, The resistance to drugs will only grow and spread to even more bacteria. At this point, we humans would be toast, no longer able to fight off bacterial infections. Not good if we're drinking contaminated water, but like any Hollywood villain, these bacteria also have a good side. They can help us create new and better antibiotics. They can help clean up toxic waste sites and maybe even be part of a new biodegradable alternative to plastics. Disruption of ocean currents. As more and more ice breaks off and melts, other ecological systems are getting thrown out of whack. For one, the melting ice is changing the way ocean currents flow. Before all this ice melted, the water in the oceans moved around in a very particular way. Dense, salty water sank to the bottom of the ocean floor, pushing the less dense water up to the surface. Through this movement, the water acted like a giant conveyor belt, transporting heat and nutrients from one place to another. This is a key factor for the survival of marine life. Now, with fresh water from melting glaciers entering the picture, the water at the ocean surface becomes less salty and dense and doesn't sink down as far. It's like our ocean conveyor belt has been jammed up. It's no longer able to move heat from one place to another. Scientists warn that the melting of the Arctic will mess with the warm Gulf Stream. They're still figuring out how an Antarctic ice melt will change our climate. Under some circumstances, for instance, if icebergs broke from the Antarctic and melted further away in the Atlantic, the changes in ocean circulation could bring on an ice age. But if the melting primarily caused sea levels to rise, well, we'd probably just end up with a warmer Earth. And it's not just heat patterns that we need to worry about. Breaking the oceanic conveyor belt means problems with the movement of nutrients from the ocean floor to the surface. These nutrients are important for the growth of phytoplankton, the tiny algae at the bottom of the ocean food chain. They may seem small and insignificant, but they're the bedrock of life in the ocean. They provide essential nutrients to marine life. But not all phytoplankton would suffer the same fate. For the phytoplankton around Antarctica's waters, the melting ice would provide iron and give them something rich to feast on. In fact, this event might lead to a temporary massive algae bloom as the waters are flooded with nutrients that were previously buried in the ice. Carbon dioxide and warming effects. The growth of the phytoplankton might be a good thing because at least they'll absorb a little carbon dioxide. The Earth will need that. Why? Well, because all this ice melting is going to make the planet a lot hotter. For several reasons. First, ice helps keep Earth cooler through its super-reflective surface. It's very effective at bouncing sunlight away from Earth's surface, which helps keep things cool. But once it's melted, that's a different story. With glaciers melting and the water warming, the activity of microscopic fungi in the water is also picking up. Just like dead leaves decompose in forests, microscopic fungi act on dead matter in the oceans, decomposing it and releasing carbon dioxide. Warmer oceans mean more dead matter gets decomposed, leading to more carbon dioxide being released. Now, on top of this, the melting glaciers create a layer of fresh water on top of the salty ocean water. This causes the oceans to be less efficient at removing carbon dioxide from the air, again adding to the warming. And now the rest of Antarctica is breaking up into humongous chunks and melting rapidly. Water from the melting ice pouring into the oceans, hidden wonders revealed. As the ice melts, something amazing is revealed, a natural wonder that's been hidden for millions of years. An enormous canyon system, 100 kilometers, 62 miles, longer than the Grand Canyon. It's the deepest canyon on Earth, running 3.5 kilometers, 2 miles below sea level, and stretching all the way from the interior to the coast. And now you can also see the 15-million-year-old Lake Vostok, the sixth largest lake in the world by volume. And good news, with all the ice melted, you can picnic there, if you're still in the mood to picnic after everything the Earth is going through. Plus, you might want to stay away from the microorganisms living in the waters of Lake Vostok. They've been evolving there, isolated from the influences of our world for 15 million years. Who knows what they could do to your body? But there's no time to admire the canyon or peer at Lake Vostok, because sea levels are rising higher and faster than before. You're witnessing the last and most dangerous stretch, catastrophic global flooding. Every last chunk of ice has melted. Sea levels have risen over 70 meters, 230 feet. This rapid rise has caught people by surprise. 40% of the world's population, over 3 billion people, live near a coastline, and the vast majority of them have drowned as Antarctica's ice has melted in a matter of minutes. The entire Atlantic seaboard, including huge chunks of the United States, is gone, submerged underwater. People in skyscrapers as high as 23 stories are forced to race to the rooftop in a desperate bid to survive. Parts of California are transformed into bunches of little islands surrounded by water, and other parts of the state are completely gone. London, Paris, Venice, and every major coastal city we know and love is underwater. Millions of people are displaced, injured, or potentially dying from this catastrophic event. Anyone smart enough to jump in their car and flee inland as the water first started pouring onto land may have escaped with their lives if they could get to higher ground. But those are only a lucky few. Governments are in a panic, deploying emergency operations. They know that almost everyone on the coast has drowned. But maybe there's a way to rescue desperate people on top of skyscrapers. But with so many people affected, are there enough helicopters to even rescue these people? Boats would be needed. How will governments be able to replace all the destroyed infrastructure? More importantly, what will we do about the sudden lack of fresh water? Freshwater crisis. With our fresh water mixed with salt water, humans now face a serious lack of drinking water. Suddenly, the land in the interior has become the hottest property. People living in the US, Midwest are super happy. They were never ever part of the wealthy coastal elite. Denver, Minneapolis, Las Vegas are looking more attractive than ever before. Now nations in the southern hemisphere are hit even harder. All of Bangladesh, with a population of 160 million people, is underwater. Geopolitical tensions rise as countries are looking for aid. But since so many places are hit, help is hard to come by. Permafrost thawing. Now that all the ice is gone, there's still another thing that has to melt, the permafrost. This is the soil that's been frozen at the poles for more than 40,000 years. As it thaws, it releases the carbon dioxide and methane that are trapped underneath it, causing the Earth to warm more and melt even more of the permafrost. As the permafrost thaws, it's as if someone popped a frozen dinner into the microwave. Tiny organisms start to munch on the freshly thawed, ancient organic matter. As they do this, they fart out carbon dioxide and methane, which causes global temperatures to rise even more. Great, now we're breathing in microorganism farts and it's getting hotter. Worst scenario ever. Oh, but it can get even worse. In the midst of all this, it's possible that DNA viruses in the permafrost will thaw and kick off a global pandemic. Creating a vaccine in the midst of this catastrophe would be a challenge like never before. Mass migration to new tropical paradises, plus it's hot. Earth is 5 to 10 OC, 9 to 18 F, warmer. The heat is what's driven the entire ice sheet to melt. But now, these changes are making it even hotter. With the average temperature on Earth now almost 27 OC, 80 OV, a mass migration of people begins. The most popular spots? Canada, Alaska, and the newly unveiled Arctic and Antarctic regions. These are the new tropical paradises. 34 million years ago, Antarctica was a temperate rainforest like New Zealand. Maybe that's going to happen all over again, with palm trees on the Antarctic coast and alligators swimming in the warm southern ocean. Thank goodness Antarctica is not actually melting in a matter of minutes. With coastal cities turning into watery graves, 3 billion people dead, our groundwater contaminated, more warming on the way, and maybe a global pandemic, I can't think of a worse situation, unless, of course, land and water suddenly switch places. But that's a story for another What If on Geo Global Insights.